Welcome, welcome, welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. My name is Beth Bergen and I'm a global leadership and communication coach. I work with individuals who they might be executives, they could be managers, they could be business owners. And often I also have the privilege of working with their teams, which I just love. I really love mixing it up with teams. Now, I'm here with Leadershipisation most Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We've talked a lot over the last few weeks, and I often find myself talking a lot with my coaching clients about difficult conversations and how to have them. And one type of these difficult conversations has come up a whole lot in the last few weeks. And so what I thought was, I'll talk with you guys about that because I think it's quite a common issue. And the question is this: how do I correct mistakes or tell someone that they're wrong? How do I do that and still manage that relationship? Well, there's two aspects here. There's that conversation or a methodology that would relate to your team or your peers. And then there's a completely different approach that's actually required for a manager or your superior, your leader, your boss. So let's explore them individually because they're quite different conversations. Now, with an employee or a peer, one of the first things that you can ask yourself is, do I need to be right now? Do I need to be right now? Now, what I mean by that is this. It's okay to have to be right. It's okay to be right. You and only you can determine, do I need to be right now in this moment? Because if you don't have to be right now, then there's the potential for you to be able to just let that go. If it's important because it's a critical thing, if it's important that you're right and you fix the error right now, then what do you do? If that's the case, what do you do? The first thing to do is to ask someone how they might have arrived at that conclusion. So if you're having a conversation with someone and they pop out a phrase or a piece of information that you know is incorrect, ask them, oh, I'm interested. How did you arrive at that conclusion? And then say, oh, that's interesting. Or the other question that you can ask is, oh, how did you come across that information? When you're curious, you're going to get down to the real issue. Where have they got their information from? Yeah. Once you've done that, you're going to be able to acknowledge their perspective, and then, because you've been curious and asked for that background information, you're in a position where what you can do is offer your own perspective. Oh, I've read something different. Would you like to hear it? What you're doing here is you're making it conversational. So you're opening the opportunity for two-way conversation about it. Now, obviously, your body language and your tone are really vital here. They're really vital because you want to come across as friendly and calm. Friendly and calm. Remembering that this is a conversation that you're having, not a confrontation. A conversation, not a confrontation. So what you would do then after they've heard, you've shared what your perspective is, then what you can be doing is working together to resolve it. And if everyone's comfortable with that, if they're not, then you can simply just be noting, oh, I've not heard that perspective before, and you move on. What's important here too is that you check your own expectations about the role that you've got the individual doing. So if they've made a mistake in their work, it's really about coming back and examining, how clear have I been about what it is that I want them to do? Keep your feedback succinct, own your part in it. If you feel as though you haven't given them the information that they need to be able to do the job that you're asking them to do, own your part in it. Define the problem. If they've made a mistake, this is the problem. Step through it. What don't you want? What do you want? And provide a really clear example for people. Then you would go on to clarify those next steps with some action items for both of you. If you need to change your approach because they've made a mistake, then make an action item for you. If they need to change their approach, make that action item with them. And then what you need to do is affirm that person. Tell them that they're doing really good work, and we all make mistakes. They know now you've worked through exactly what they need to do to deal with it, and then move on. Yeah? So what we've done there, if someone is voicing some information that you know is an error, then you're going to ask them, oh, where did you get that information from? Oh, I hadn't heard that before. If they've made an error, then you're going to talk to them about that error, keeping everything succinct, not justifying a whole lot of stuff, owning your own part, stepping them through how you would like it to be done, clarifying those next steps, affirming the work that they're doing, and then moving on. Those kind of conversations can be really difficult to have sometimes. The worst ones to have for many people are when they're required to manage up and to actually identify with their own manager or their own boss or their own leader that they've made a mistake, that they're wrong. Now, part of what happens here is that it's really critical when these people are wrong. It has a much higher level of importance because it's all about organizational reputation. It's all about perhaps financial success. It's all about overall success of the organization. So it's really much more critical if they're wrong, and that can make us a lot more fearful. The important thing here is that you figure out a way to overcome your fears and speaking up. So it's not going to be, you're wrong, that's wrong, that's not correct, that doesn't make sense, that's dumb. We're not going down that pathway, because anything like that creates defensiveness, and that immediately threatens their status as the manager, as the leader, as the boss. Remember, when you're managing up, to tell people that they're wrong, that they're going to have to admit that they're wrong before they can accept that you might be correct. Now, I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but the reality is, if they can't admit to themselves that they're wrong, then they're never going to accept that you're correct in raising it with them. If they get to that stage, they might kind of go, oh, okay, I was wrong. Wow, I'm really glad here because one of my team has corrected me. And that can be really hard for you to achieve. However, it's worth giving it a try. Remember that it's going to stick with them if what you do is keep the focus all the time on being wrong. It's taken their ego has taken a bit of a hit here. They've had to admit to themselves that they're wrong. And that always takes a little bit. So The way to approach it is this. It's about coming at it kind of sideways a little bit. So it might be that you do this. So I was wondering, I checked the order forms, and when I ran the calculations, I got a different answer. Is that just me, or did you notice anything? Now, can you see there that what we're doing is we're encouraging our boss or our manager to go back and to check the work without admitting that perhaps they made a mistake. You're kind of acknowledging that maybe you're the person that made the error, and you're demonstrating some of that genuine curiosity that we've talked about a whole lot. We're always talking about that, that be curious. It's a real skill. It's an important skill for you to put in your leadership intelligence toolbox. Now, this kind of response is also less aggressive, and it really encourages your boss or the senior to rethink something. Wonderfully, what they can do then is potentially they can correct it without necessarily admitting that they're wrong or at fault. Now, for some people, that'll sit there and they'll go, well, why can't they just admit that they're wrong? If what you're going to do is push your superior into a position where they're required to admit that they're wrong, then potentially that's a memory of you that they can carry forward into the future, which may do more to damage your relationship with them than to enhance it, rather. So, you're giving them the opportunity here to correct something without having to admit publicly that they were wrong or that they were at fault. They will have had to admit that to themselves. So I guess it's almost like I want you to treat your boss, your manager, your leader, like they were your biggest client. So what we're doing here is we're taking a direct, honest approach focused on the issue and not on the personal or not on the person. Before you do any of this, what's really important is that you make sure that you're right. You make sure that you're right. So work with the facts, not the emotions, because quite often if one of our superiors has been kind of like pushing our buttons for some time, or we've made some judgments about their behavior or how fast they get things done or how well they do things, we can often see a mistake where potentially a mistake doesn't exist. So it's a great idea for you to go and get all the information, make sure that you're correct so that you can build your conversation with them on facts, not just on the emotions. And when you gather those facts and you raise it with them, that you're well supported with lots of information and solutions. It's a good idea to speak to anyone who's made a mistake privately and respectfully. That's really important. You don't want to make people feel small or feel bad. And it certainly is important with your superiors that what you are is polite, that you remain polite, and that what you're encouraging is collaboration. That's vital. So it all the time, problem solving, not confrontation. Conversation, not confrontation. So again, that tone of voice, the words, they're all really important. It's not about being wrong. It's not about being having made a mistake. It's about working it through. Making sure that if your boss or your leader or your manager has made a mistake, that everyone comes out of it with their egos intact and the mistake is corrected so that you don't have that fallout for reputation, overall success, and particularly you don't take a financial hit as a result of it. So give it a try. See how it goes. I'd love it if you let me know. How did it go? Thank you so much for being here today. It's always interesting to look at different ways of dealing with difficult situations and having those difficult conversations. Please put any questions or comments that you've had on the platform that you're checking this out on, and we'll get back to you. If you're watching the replay, #replay would be awesome. Reach out if you think that there's more that I can do with you and potentially your team to help you to improve your leadership and your communication skills. It would be my pleasure to have a conversation with you. See you next week. Bye now.